Okay, everyone, let's continue with chapter 9, section 9.5, and we're today going to be graphing lines. I mentioned at the last class period that one of the things you do after you learn to plot points is graph lines, and sure enough, that's what we're doing today. So let's fill in these first few words and then dive right in. To blank, find at least 3 ordered pairs that satisfy the equation. That's going to be graph a linear equation. I'm going to be lazy today. Here we go. Graph a linear equation, okay? Into that blank right there. And then, as you move from left to right, if a line tilts downward, it has a negative slope. Okay, a slope is essentially a word that tells the steepness. Things that are going downhill from left to right are negative slopes, and that's what they're talking about there. Okay. So, we are supposed to plot some points. I was just looking to see how they wanted us to do it, which seems a little overkill, but maybe not. Okay, so we'll do what they did. And they made a table that says X, Y, and then the equation, and then the point. So let's make a little table at the top. X, Y, the equation, and then the point. Okay, here we go. Here's my table. We're going good week. So I'm going to start with the X and then put the Y and then my equation. And in this problem, the equation is X minus Y equals 0. X minus Y equals 0. And then put the point, which we always list the X first and then the Y. I hope you did your homework last time because this will be easier if you've already done the homework from 9.4. Okay. So we have to have, it says at least 3 points. Officially, that's wrong. You only have to have 2, but it's not a bad idea to get a third, okay? So I just wanted to tell you officially, you only have to have 2 points. 2 points determine a line, that's all you need. So I'm going to make my table go down enough to put 3 because that's what this book wants me to do. And it's a bit of a kill, but we'll do it anyway. Okay, that way you'll catch a mistake more likely. Okay. So when we just look at this, X minus Y equals 0, we can do it with substitution, or this one's so easy we can probably just solve it by reasoning. So if I let X be 3, and I take 3 minus something equals 0, what would Y need to be? Ben? 3 minus what would, 3, right? 3 minus 3 equals 0, right? That's pretty easy. And then we could check it here. 3 minus 3 equals 0. Yep, it checks out. And so the point I want to put on my graph is 3, comma 3. And that's what I'm going to go ahead and put it right now while I'm at it. Go to 3, up to 3. There's the point, 3, 3. I assume they want you to label these, but I'm not going to. Okay, I'm just going to. Okay, let's do the next one. Now we're going to put in an X. And let's let X be 1. If X is 1, 1 minus Y is 0. What would Y need to be? This is a pretty easy one, isn't it? Emil?
1.
1 it is, because 1 minus 1 is 0. And so that means we now need to put the point 1, 1 on the graph. And I'm going to put that there. Now, I'm going to try to challenge you. Since I want us to do 3 points and we don't really need it, we're going to make the next one trickier. What if X is negative 5? Ooh. Ben?
Negative 5.
Negative 5 it is. All right, because think of this. Negative 5 minus a negative 5 is the same as negative 5 plus 5, yes, which is 0. You got it, right? And we kind of saw the pattern emerging. Whatever we put in for the X, that was the Y, so yeah. So we're going to put the point -5 on the graph. Just why not? Right there. Now that we have 3 points, and again, literally we only needed 2 of those to determine the line, but they want us to do 3, and we're going to do what the book says. Don't know why, but we are. Make sure your line goes all the way across your graph. I don't want any little baby wimpy lines. I will take off points if you draw a little, I'll tell the grader to, if you draw a little baby wimpy line. I want the line to go all the way across the graph to be strong and confident. Line number 1 is done. Next page. Graph this line. Okay, so I'm going to make my table down here. X, Y, and then Y equals 4 minus, oops, a writing problem. It should be 4x minus 1. Or x minus 1. I'm going to leave myself a little extra space, and I'm going to go over here and put the point on my graph is going to be x comma y. So that's the table that they like us to make, and it seems reasonable, I guess. Required, but okay. I'm going to now tell you what your favorite zero is. I'm teasing. I'm going to recommend what your favorite zero should be, right? You can pick anything as your favorite zero. That's your prerogative. I think the easiest thing to let zero be, x is usually, is to be 0. So usually the easiest thing to pick for x is 0. So that's what I'm going to do first. And now, after I pick the 0, I can't just always look at this and guess it. I have to go out and figure out what y is. Y is equal to 4. If I put a 0 in, then y will be -1. We're good? So I calculate the y based on the x that I choose. You can either choose x or choose y, but then you calculate the other. Okay, so that gives me a -1 when I put a 0 in. So the point I need to graph is 0, -1. So put that on your graph. 0, -1. Be careful on those axes that you go the right direction. And now I'm going to put a line here because I'm done with that first part on my table. Now you get to pick the next x value. It's easier to pick x's because y is calculated based on the x. Okay, Ben, will you pick an x for us?
1.
That's a good choice. That would be my choice next, okay? 1. So you get to pick anything you want for x. Then you figure out the y. Y is 4 times x, and chose 1. So we're going to use that. So I have 4 minus 1. So I get 3. So y is 3 when you put a 1 into this equation. It's a linear equation. So that means I need to put the point 1, comma 3 on my graph. Okay. 1, 3. Now I kind of like to put a negative in just so I have something on the right side, on the left side, and at 0. Okay. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to pick let's do -1. Why not? It's probably the easiest. Let's put -1 so we have something on that side. So y will equal to 4 times x, and I chose -1. So that's going to be -4 minus 1, -5. So when I put a -1 in for x, y is -5. -1, -5. You can pick another positive. It's not wrong, but I just personally like to have a negative in there. So I'll put this on my graph. -1, -5 is right there. Then take your handy protractor, which I ask your parents to buy, and draw your line again. No wimpy lines. The line has to extend off the edge on both sides of the graph to be a nice, strong, big line. Okay, we're good? Next page. Graph this. Ooh, we're going to have to be really careful on this one. I can already tell. So since we're going to do the graphing, I'm going to make myself the table. And I need my X. And I need my Y. And then I need my equation. And the equation is Y equals 1/5 of X. And then at the end, I need my point. X, Y. Okay, that's going to be my table. My header, I'm going to do double bar on it so I don't get myself mixed up. Okay. All right. What's the easiest thing to pick for X? Almost always. Sasha. Uh-oh. Okay, Sasha, Sasha, your voice is coming out like a chipmunk. It's like really high. So I know your voice isn't like that. I've heard it many times. It's a lovely voice, but today it's a chipmunk. Okay, so Mia, will you tell me what is the easiest perhaps thing to put in for X? Look at what we started with last time.
1.
Nope. Neil, 0 it is. Yes, 0. 0 is the easiest because 0 times something wipes it out. It just gets rid of stuff, right? So I always start with 0. Then I pick a positive, usually 1, and a negative, okay? So I'm going to start with 0 because I think it's easy. There's no right or wrong here, folks. You can do differently than me, right? As long as your line is the same line. Okay, now to figure out the y, we don't get to pick the y. We have to calculate the y. So go over here. Y is going to be 1/5 of X, and X we chose to be 0. 1/5 of 0 is 0. So when I put a 0 in for X, Y also turns out to be 0. So this thing goes through the origin 0, 0. So we're going to put that on the graph right there, 0, 0. Don't make your points too big and furry or your line can get off, okay? That was probably a little larger than I should have drawn it. Now I'm going to put a line because I've finished my first one. Zoop. And I'm going to pick my next one. And I'm going to take Mia's other suggestion, which is a 1. Okay. And I'm going to put that in next. And I think that's a bad choice, right? Because the thing I'm going to do is take 1/5 of that, and I'm going to get a 1, and then I'm going to have to graph 1 and 1 for X and Y as 1/5, and that's hard. What would be a better choice for X? Ben.
5.
5, exactly. 5 would be because 1/5 of 5 is a lovely number. It's not a fraction, or not that fractions aren't lovely, but it's a nice whole number, which is easier to graph. So 1/5 of 5 is 1. So when I put a 5 in for X, Y is 1. That gives me the point 5, 1 on my graph. So let's put that there. 5, 1. All right. Now, if I really insist, which I want to do, I want to put a negative number in. And having learned what we did about the positive number, what do you suggest for the negative number? Ben, again.
-10.
Well, that's not a bad choice, but my graph stops at -6, so I'm going to veto that, okay? Another suggestion. Maybe something not quite so large, but still lovely.
-5.
Yes, -5 is the best choice, I think. Because then we can take 1/5 of -5, which is going to be 1/5 of -5 is going to be -5/5, which is -1. Okay, so I put in a -5 and I get a -1. There's a point -5, -1 on this line. And sure enough, it looks good. Make your line extend off on both edges of your graph grid. And there you go. So this was harder because we needed to choose strategically what values for x that we used. Right, moving on. Y equals x plus 2. Make your little table down here. We're going to have our x's, our y's, and we calculate y by taking x plus 2, and then we write our point x, y. And you'll need to remember the order for this table because if you want it on the test, you'll have to make your own little table. But I think you'll get plenty of practice on that on your homework. Okay, so let's the top, there's the header. And let's choose the first value. Alicia, what do you suggest we choose first?
Um, 0.
Good choice, 0. That's the best thing, I think. All right. It's just easy to work with 0. It doesn't do much, right? So to get the y, I put 0 in, and that gives me y equals 2. So what if I put a 0 in, I get a 2. So I need to put the point 0, 2 on my graph. The first number tells us left and right. Don't go any to the left or right. Then the second number tells us vertically, so we go up to 2. I must miss that. There we go. All right. Point number 1 out of the required 3 that they want us to do. Okay. All right, Claudia, what should we try next for x?
We can try 2.
That sounds good for variety, right? Okay, so to get y, we take x, and she chose 2 plus 2. Y will be 4. So if we put a 2 in, we'll get a 4 for the y. We need the point 2, 4 on the graph. 2, 4. Now, I want to stop and point out to you what I said earlier is that all you really need is 2 points. So if you did a good job of those and connect them up, you will have the line that you need. So I'm going to go ahead and draw it, and then we're going to get the third point and see, in fact, that it will land on this line because we have 2 points on the line, and that's really all we need. Okay, but let's do the third because they told us to. And we need to pick a negative x. I think I'll pick, why don't we pick a negative 2? How's that? Since we're in the 2 mode. Y is equal to, the x is now chosen to be negative 2. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. That was a good choice. Negative 2, 0. Negative 2, 0. Look, it's going right through that point. We verified it by doing that third point. We just kind of double checked in case we messed up something. Okay. Look back at the graph of x plus 2 from example 4. This one. Then complete these sentences. Okay, so we're looking at this graph to complete this sentence. The graph of x plus 2 has a, okay, now they just want us to say if it has a positive or a negative slope, a positive or a negative. When we go from left to right, we are going, read it just like a book. Start on the left side and go along the line from left to right. We're going up. That means that slope is positive. As the value of x is increasing, as the x's get bigger, the values of y are also getting bigger. They're increasing. As the value of x increases, the value of y increases. Okay, so I just filled in the blanks instead of writing it in the blanks below. You can do whichever you prefer. I'd like to look briefly at this one over here. That's the secondary example. Don't know what's on the next page. I haven't looked, but on this one, as you go from left to right across the graph and trace it from left to right, you're tracing downwards. So its slope is going to be negative. And as the x's are getting bigger on the graph, the y values are getting smaller, they're decreasing. As the value of x increases, the value of y decreases, it goes down, okay? So those are the two possibilities that we're talking about now, positive slopes and negative slopes. There are actually two other cases. I don't know when they'll give you those, but maybe in Algebra 1, maybe now, I don't know. Okay, use these points as the values of x. All right, so I'm going to do a modified table because I think you guys are ready for it. Here we go. We're going to do x and y, which is x minus 4, okay? And then we're going to put our point, xy. So I'm taking a little bit off of the original table. Now, they want us to use 0, 2, and 4 as your x's. So we're going to put a 0 in here, then we're going to put a 2 in here, then we're going to put a 4 in here. They want us to calculate all of those. So I'm going to put my lines on my graph because that's good for me. Okay. When I put a 0 for the x, then y will be 0 minus 4. Y is negative 4. So I get the point 0, negative 4. All right, let's divide and conquer on these. If you, I don't know, if you live, everybody lives in the same sort of, if you live on the East Coast, do this one. And if you do not live on the East Coast, I would call the East Coast being like New York, Connecticut, up there somewhere, okay? You can just decide. So put in 2 if you're on the East Coast and put in a 4 if you're not. Carolinas, I don't know. Okay. Okay, East Coast. When you put in a 2 for the x, what is the y? Alicia?
I got -2.
You got it right, kiddo. So when we put in 2 and we subtract 4, we get y to be -2. Perfect. We're going to put those in our graph in a minute. Now, on the non-East Coasters, when you put a 4 in, what do you get? Shout it out, somebody. Yeah, Sasha, let's see how your voice is coming through.
You get 0.
You do. So y is going to be x, and we're trying a 4 this time, -4. Y equals 0. Perfect. Okay, put these on your graph. 0, -4, 2, -2, and 4, 0. There aren't any negative x's, but that's okay. We have 3, and that's definitely enough to draw a nice line here. And we draw the line. Please do not draw your lines without a straight edge. I want all lines to have straight edge straightness, okay? So get a note card, get a ruler, get a protractor, make them straight, okay? Okay. Now this one's going to be a little different. Here they want us to use, okay, I'm going to make myself a little table here. X, and they want the x's to be -4, -3, and -2. But here's the deal, folks. I want to look at this equation, x plus y equals -3. And if this is supposed to tell me what y is equal to, I'm going to use my algebra skills to solve this for the y. I'm going to subtract the x off of both sides, subtract the x. You know how to do this already. So y is going to be -x minus 3. So that's what I'm going to use right here. Y is equal to -x minus 3. You don't have to do that. I just think it's a little better. And then we're going to have our point at the end. Excuse me. Okay. Let's draw my lines across. Shoop. Shoop. Okay, here we go. If you are, if you have a dog that's a pet, do this one. If you have a cat that's a pet, do this one. And if you have anything else as a pet, do this one. Okay. Now, what if you have a cat and a dog? Then you have to do both of them. If you have all three, you have to do all three of them. So get to work, right? Sasha.
What do I do if I don't have any pets?
Let's call you another. Another. All right. These are a little tricky, I can already tell. I need some paper under my paper. It's kind of hard. Okay, who has a dog? I figured you did, Claudia. I just had a hunch. -4, comma. What did you get for y, Claudia?
I got -7.
Nope.
No?
Negative of the x, and the x is a -4.
Oh, okay.
So fix that real quick and tell me what you get. -4. What'd you get this time, Claudia?
Negative. No, it's just 1.
It is 1, exactly. So in this one, we have a negative of a -4 minus 3, which is the same as a +4 minus 3. In other words, 1, +1. So we want to put the point -4, +1 as our first point on this line. No matter what you pick for x and y's on this line, they'll land on the line. Okay, who has a cat? Oh, thank heavens. I was afraid nobody had a cat. Emil, when you put in -3, what do you get?
0.
You do get 0, okay? So we have y is equal to negative -3 minus 3. Y is equal to a negative, and negative is a +3 minus 3, which is 0. So we have the point -3, 0. Okay. And who has another type of pet? Yes, Sasha. What did you get when you put in -2?
I got 1.
Do y'all agree with that? You agree with that? Anybody want to disagree? Emil's going to disagree. Good. I like disagreeable people. No, I'm teasing. What do you think, Emil?
I think it's -1.
I think it is too. Let's try this. Y is equal to a negative x, and x is -2, and then we subtract 3. So a -2 is a +2. 2 minus 3 is -1. It should be -1. So we're going to put -2, -1. Now, I kind of like to check and see, where does this cross down here? Doesn't it look like it's going to cross at -3? So when x is 0, yeah, it's -3. I just double checked it. Okay. You can always put in another point if you want to. All the way across, make it go off the graph on both ends, because no mamby-pamby lines in this class. Okay. Look back at exercises 1 and 2, and then complete these. Now, what in the devil are they doing for slope without teaching you slope? I'm sorry. Let me glance at, I want to make sure that that I'm not going to do something that doesn't match up with this section in the book. 656. And clearly I know the slope stuff, but I don't want to do it differently than the book. Okay, slope. What are they going to do with slope in this chapter? Wait, aren't we on 9.5? Aren't we on 9.5? That page number doesn't match up. Maybe I got dyslexic. No, I didn't. The page number doesn't match up with this edition. Oh, well, that's fine. Let me look real quickly at what they're going to do with slope. Oh, I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself. I'm glad I looked. They only want you to tell if it's positive or if it's negative. So if you have any younger sibs, do this one. If you do not have younger sibs, do this one. Tell if the slope is positive or negative, and those are the ones that we did up here, right? This is number 1 above, and this is number 2 above, okay? Okay. Mia, which group are you in? Number 3 or number 4?
Number 3.
Okay. You have younger sibs. What is the slope of this one? Is it positive or negative?
Positive?
Yes, it is. Good. There's a bug on my paper. Do y'all see it right there? Blew away. Okay. So how do we know it's positive? We take our pen and we start on the left side and we trace it. If we're tracing upward, it's positive, like uphill is positive. If we're tracing from left to right downward, it's negative. Okay. Who does not have younger sibs, Ben?
It has a negative slope
It
since
does.
I started on the left and it's going down.
Absolutely. Start on the left, trace it, it's going down, so its slope is negative, right? Yep. Good. And that concludes this section. The homework for this week, I think, will be a little faster to do than usual. Just be careful that you don't get your stuff switched around. I'm going to stop the recording and see what the message in my chat is.